People who cheated on their partner with a best friend, yours or theirs, and regretted it. What's your story? Story 1. I have been having an affair for the past 15 years with a woman he believes is just my best friend. I always justified it by telling myself it had no effect on my marriage, and that, in fact, I have been with my best friend longer. We became friends as roommates during our first year of college. Eventually, we started dating in secret, but later broke up while still remaining close. We both went on to marry men. Sometimes I wonder if, had gay marriage been legal 20 years ago, we would have married each other. Still, the physical connection between us never disappeared. 15 years ago, we started up again, and we never stopped. What weighs on me is not only the affair, but also the fact that my husband has always been so supportive of my best friend. When her marriage ended 10 years ago, he let me move her and her 2 daughters into our in-law suite. They have never left, and he has never accepted a dime from her. Her ex is a deadbeat who is years behind on child support, so my husband pays the private school tuition for her daughters. They even vacation with us. My husband can afford it. He was already successful when I married him. I am and want to remain a stay-at-home mom, though I dedicate a lot of time to volunteer work I love. She has a modestly paid but meaningful job in social services and could never afford to live in the suburb we do. It is as though he has 2 wives but only sleeps with one of us. I, on the other hand, sleep with both. Last week, he came home and casually mentioned that while making the 527 contributions for our 3 children, he realized her daughters did not have accounts of their own, so he opened college funds for both of them. He does all of this simply to make me happy. I know some people will assume he must be involved with her too. At times, I almost wish he were, because then I could feel less guilty about what I am doing. But the truth is, I am deeply jealous of both of them. A few years ago, I even began secretly tracking their phones to see if they were ever together. Nothing. He is simply a good man, being unbelievably generous to his wife's secret lover. And the more he does for her, the worse I feel. Yet the truth is, I am not giving up either of them, because I cannot. I am not strong enough. Before we continue, do us a quick favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. I cheated on my wife with my best friend after he transitioned to a woman. This is difficult for me to share because I am extremely regretful for what I have done. I met my friend Dustin 5 years ago, and we quickly became best friends. We had a lot of common interests and just generally enjoyed spending time together. I am married to an amazing woman, and we have 2 wonderful children. Before long, Dustin became Uncle Dustin to my kids and a close friend to my wife. About 2 years into our friendship, Dustin revealed that he identified as a woman. Both my wife and I are very open-minded, and we supported Dustin in every way we could as he transitioned to his true self. Dustin became Amy, a beautiful and proud woman whom I almost immediately found myself attracted to. I will admit that I have often had fantasies about being with transgender women, and occasionally with men, though I never believed it was something I would actually pursue in real life. I don't know if I truly fell in love with Amy. Honestly, after this, I'm not even sure I know what love really is. What I do know is that I became infatuated with her, both emotionally and physically. For months, I did my best to hide my feelings, but eventually I couldn't hold it in any longer and confessed everything to her. To my surprise, she admitted she had feelings for me too. One thing led to another, and we ended up being intimate. I wish I could say it wasn't enjoyable, but the truth is that it was the best experience I have ever had. Still, the moment it was over, I knew I had made a mistake. It broke her heart to say it, because I was the first man she had ever been with, but she agreed with me. For a while, we kept it platonic. She continued spending time with me and my family, who were none the wiser, and on the surface, everything seemed fine. But inside, I was a mess of opposing forces: guilt and lust, regret and longing, fear of being discovered, and the thrill of getting away with it. Eventually, inevitably, in hindsight, it happened again. It was even better than the first time, but the turmoil was taking its toll on both of us. I developed an ulcer and stomach problems, and I could barely sleep because of insomnia and nightmares. Amy cared deeply for my wife and kids, and knew that if they ever found out, it would devastate them. So we ended it. We tried to remain friends, but it became impossible. There was simply too much between us to return to what we once had. Hanging out turned into phone calls turned into texts, and eventually we stopped communicating altogether. It has been 6 months since I last spoke to her, and not a single day goes by that I don't think about her. I know that if my wife ever found out about us, it would be the end of our marriage. We have a good life together and have managed to give our children the kind of lives we always wished we had when we were kids. Of course, I struggle a lot with my identity now. I don't know if I'm bisexual, gay, or something else, but I do know that I constantly think about being with men and transgender women. So that's my confession. Just one more lost and confused person. feeling like there is no hope of ever figuring it out, or at least that's how it feels. Thank you for reading this far. I know it's long. Writing this out has felt good, and I appreciate any advice or constructive comments you good folks might have. Story 3. I just took a pregnancy test 45 minutes ago, and it came back positive. I have to go to the store to get a second test because I wasn't expecting this result, and I'm freaking out. I told my husband that we could try to have a baby, but I've secretly been taking birth control because I've also been intimate with his best friend. I've been terrified of getting pregnant and not knowing who the father would be. Now it looks like my worst nightmare has become a reality. If I am pregnant, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know I want to stay married to my husband, so telling him I'm pregnant when I'm not 100% sure who the father is out of the question. I guess my boyfriend and I will have to do a paternity test. If the baby is his, I'll have to get an abortion. If it's my husband's, I can keep it. Either way, I'm in a very difficult situation. My boyfriend and husband have been friends even before I met my husband, but ever since I've been cheating with Rob has started to harbor resentment toward my husband, and it's beginning to affect their friendship. I don't know how this news is going to impact all three of us, but I'm worried Rob may want to keep the baby with me if it's his and push me to leave my husband like he's been trying to for weeks. Even my husband has noticed that Rob has been acting cold and distant, and it's because he's in love with me. I really need positive vibes and well wishes to get through this. Story 4. I made a huge mistake, and now I'm caught in such a messed up situation that I don't know what to do anymore. I just want advice, but if you're mean, I understand. I know I screwed up. This is a long story. I'm 23 and my husband is 26. We've been married for around 3 months, but we've been together ever since my sophomore year of high school, his senior year. We've done everything together. When he went to college, we made sure I could go to the same school. He even turned down a better scholarship so he could attend a school where I had a better chance of getting in. He was one of the smart kids and I was more average. When he finished, he immediately started working so that he could support us while I dropped out because he knew I hated school. He works as a software engineer now. Sorry for the long background, but I just wanted to show that I do love him with everything in me. I appreciate everything he's done for me, and I wouldn't give him up for anything. I stay at home and take care of the usual cleaning, cooking, and house maintenance, so we have a good relationship. We both put in a lot of work to make sure things stay afloat. Before I get into this, I should say that my physical attraction to him hasn't been the same as it was in college. Ever since he started working, he's been going to the gym less and doesn't work out with me as often. He's not fat or anything, but it's obvious he doesn't have as much muscle. The things he had early in college, like his six-pack, which he knows I used to love, are long gone. Maybe working out less also reduced his testosterone because the physical intimacy isn't as frequent, and when we do have it, it's not like it used to be. A couple of months ago, one of his closer friends, let's call him David, started coming over to hang out. Usually I don't like his friends being at our place so often, but David and I instantly clicked. We hit it off immediately, and my husband was happy to see that I finally got along with one of his friends. But, as usual, he ended up going back to work and spending less and less time with me. Honestly, that might have been one of the reasons I cheated. When we were about to get married, he promised me we wouldn't fall out of touch like in the movies, and that he wouldn't abandon me for work. But that's exactly what it feels like happened. David started coming over a couple of hours before my husband got home, just to wait for him comfortably, and we began hanging out. We did everything together that I felt my husband should have taken the time to do with me. We binge-watched Netflix, talked about so much, went out to movies. Whenever people saw us, they said I looked happier. And at that point, I think I was. Soon, David started coming over to hang out with me more than my husband did. He began coming earlier and earlier, until it was basically at the start of the day. As long as he didn't have class, he's working on his master's degree. One morning, David came by, and we started binge-watching Netflix. I wasn't wearing as many clothes as usual because he arrived around 9 a.m., slightly earlier than expected. I only had on a big shirt and some undies and didn't even realize I wasn't wearing a bra until it was too late. I felt awkward, but I was already so comfortable with him that it didn't matter. As a joke, David also got only in his shirt and his boxers and climbed into bed next to me. He was uncomfortably close at first, but I ended up moving in even closer. I didn't intend for it to go further than that, but he was everything my husband wasn't anymore. He was still fit, and I could tell he really wanted me in a way my husband hadn't. We ended up doing it that day. I trusted him, so we never used protection. He gave me the chance to feel things and do things I hadn't in a long time. I thought I would feel bad afterward, but I didn't. I was just excited to feel desired, wanted, and satisfied again. David and I continued this relationship for months, and I even gave him the nickname Hubby because I truly felt like he was my real husband in the way he treated me. Of course, he started to get possessive, and that's where the big problems began. Whenever we became intimate, he wanted my wedding ring off. I ended up losing it, and my husband immediately noticed because I usually never took it off. But that was only the beginning. David told me to stop kissing my husband or treating him like he was my husband at all. I complied and ended up treating my husband poorly because David manipulated me into believing he was a bad husband for leaving me so alone. I went back on birth control, and we never used protection because David didn't like it, and I didn't object because I enjoyed the feeling of being wanted and taken again. I stopped kissing my husband, kept as much distance between us in bed as possible, and made a point to never be close with him no matter what. When I got angry or upset, I called him fat and ugly, and it completely destroyed our marriage. David was still around, and my husband must have noticed how affectionate I was with him because he started making accusations. Of course, David got possessive again. When my husband told him he couldn't come over anymore, David retaliated by sending him months' worth of the pictures, videos, and messages we had exchanged, a kind of sick payback. When my husband got home, he was furious. He screamed and threw things, and I had no idea what to do. In that moment, I realized that David didn't care about me as much as my husband did, if he was willing to expose me like that. He yelled about how hard he was working, as if I didn't contribute to the household, and broke a lot of my personal items. He was crying in the corner, talking about wanting to end it all, and I was terrified because he kept lashing out unpredictably. He asked me questions, half yelling, half crying about how often and how long it had been going on. I broke down and confessed everything. He looked at the videos on his phone and grew angry again, especially because I had told David that I loved him and that he was better than my husband, along with other things that insulted him. In the videos, he saw that we had been doing it in our marital bed. He started screaming and harming himself in odd ways, and insulting himself the way I had when I got angry. I was terrified he was losing his mind. Thankfully, the neighbors called the police because of the yelling. They seemed to take his side more than mine, and asked if I had somewhere else to stay, so I don't know if he was hospitalized or not. Now, I'm living with my mother and working part-time again. I regret everything. I still haven't been able to fully distance myself from David, because I think he genuinely started to care for me once my husband pushed me away, and he's been there for me. David now calls me wifey, and it hurts because all I really want is my husband back. We haven't officially divorced yet, but he refuses to talk to me or return my messages. If I send a third party, he just tells them to have me get a lawyer because he wants a divorce. I don't know how well I'll do in the divorce since he paid for everything, and because of David, he has a mountain of evidence of my cheating. I just want this all to be over. What can I do to get him back? And if I can't, how will I fare in the divorce? Update. After writing this post, I was able to get in contact with my husband's sister, and apparently he's not doing well mentally. She said he hasn't been eating properly and has lost a lot of weight. All he does is work, sleep, and maybe eat every other day. She also said that I caused nearly irreparable damage to his confidence, and now he's afraid to go out in public because he thinks people will see him as a joke. Honestly, I don't fully see how his mental state is entirely my fault. It's his response and the choices he's making, but it's still hard to hear. His sister still wants me to sign the divorce papers and is threatening me with the evidence that David sent him. I've decided to hold off on any attempt to get him back until I can be sure he's not going to do anything drastic like he did the night he found out. Story 5. I am a 40-year-old mother of a 5-year-old daughter. I have been married to my husband for 12 years. About 10 years ago, I started my business, which has become my pride and joy. I love my life and truly enjoy my work. 2 years ago, I lost my beautiful mother to breast cancer. It all happened in 5 weeks, and she was so young, 55 years old. Her death sent me into shock and depression. Shortly before that, my best friend found out that her husband had cheated and left her for his mistress. It was a difficult time, and my best friend and I grew even closer. She moved in with me for a while after my mother passed because I wasn't really functioning and she was homeless. During this time, I started taking antidepressants, which killed my desire. I felt guilty toward my husband, but I couldn't do much except focus on trying to regain my health. My best friend lived with us for about a year. Toward the end of that year, they started sleeping together. One day I came home early and heard them. I ran out in shock and returned a few hours later, pretending that nothing had happened. I managed to find her a place smoothly because I couldn't bear it happening in my home, my sanctuary, my happy place, where I live with my daughter. My best friend had already found a job, so I took the opportunity to help her secure an apartment near work. She was grateful, and I felt a bit relieved. The affair is still going on. If I leave, he will take half of everything I've built, and it will ruin me and my business, everything I am trying to create for myself and my baby. So no, I don't want to leave. It feels so unfair that he is the one cheating, and I am the one who would pay the price if I spoke up. I refuse to let that happen, so I am letting it continue. Instead, I wrote him off as my companion and safety blanket. I still have so much to be grateful for. My baby, my family, my beautiful home, and my business. Most of the time, I am content and happy, even though I don't fully understand how I'm doing it. Maybe it's numbness or resignation, or maybe it's true contentment. But sometimes when everything feels 100 times worse, I can barely contain my panic, especially at night when he wakes me up because I'm crying. Again. "Are you having a nightmare?" he asks, and he tries to kiss and cuddle me to make me feel safe. I'm here. You're safe. I wish I could tell him that my nightmares are my escape from my reality with him, and that his shoulders aren't safe. He rarely asks why I'm crying. He probably assumes it's because of Mom, since that's what I tell him. But sometimes I feel like he knows. Or maybe he just can't help but wonder. "What's going on behind those eyes? What do you mean? I can't read your face anymore." And then, of course, there's silence again. When I look at him, he immediately looks away, like he's scared he'll turn to stone, and he just says, "I miss you." That's all. My panic has increased over the past few months, ever since he started paying attention to me again. In the period right after Mom's passing, he never bothered me. Out of courtesy, I suppose. He never asked for intimacy. Then he had her, so he didn't need me. But now, I don't know what changed. They're still together, so what does he want from me? Is he testing me? I've never understood why they're doing what they're doing. I've seen their texts. There's no love there, no respect, no warmth, nothing I would expect from two people sleeping together, especially not when the stakes are so high. You would think they'd love each other so much that they'd be willing to pay the price if they were caught. But no, there's a lot of anger, fighting, and resentment, a lot of guilt and self-hatred. He calls himself and her disgusting, shells of human beings. Is that some sort of love? I don't know why I'm writing here. I googled infidelity and self-help and ended up in this community. I've read tens of similar stories. Maybe I would feel better writing my own down. Please don't think too ill of me. I know I feel pathetic, but I used to have more dignity. Story 6. I'm having an affair with my married best friend. I've known her for years and have always thought she was amazing. I only really developed feelings for her last January, right as her marriage began falling apart. She told me that her marriage had been a mistake for all the wrong reasons, and that she had already cheated on him with other people. At that time, I decided not to reveal my feelings because it would only complicate her life further. I was still in a relationship myself anyway. I figured she would be divorced soon, and then I could lay everything out for her. What makes it even more intense is how much we see each other. She, her husband, myself, and all of our friends volunteer for the same non-profit. I work with them constantly, and my secret feelings began to weigh heavily on me. Fast forward 10 months, and I'm still head over heels for her, while she's somehow still married. I've been through 2 girlfriends in that time, both of whom rightfully accused me of having a crush on her. One day, we were hanging out, getting stoned, and ended up cuddling and making out. I didn't resist. I had been going crazy over my feelings for her and was tired of waiting. One thing led to another, and for the past month, we've been regularly doing it. Because everyone knows we're best friends, it's relatively easy to get away with, though it still requires a lot of sneaking around. Actually, our whole social circle is a mess. There's a lot of secret affairs going on, and that's just the stuff I know about. Her husband is what most people would call a nice guy, but he's deeply self-centered. He has treated me poorly on a few serious occasions, which, combined with my jealousy, has made me really dislike him. My best friend says she has told him she's unhappy and wants a divorce, but he refuses to face the fact that their marriage is a sham. She can't bring herself to leave him for emotional and financial reasons that I don't fully understand. I don't care that we'll end up hurting her husband. The only thing I feel guilty about is that I don't care. He's oblivious and doesn't seem to care about her happiness, so honestly, screw him. I love this woman. I haven't told her because I don't think she's in a place to reciprocate right now. I know this probably can't last and that I'm just filling a hole in her life, and yet I don't care. She lights me up. Story 7. I don't know where else to put this, but I just need to get it off my chest. I know I messed up, and there's no real excuse, but here I am trying to make sense of how I got here. For a while now, my marriage has felt empty. My husband has been distant, both physically and emotionally. I tried to reach out, tried to make things better, but it felt like talking to a wall. We became more like roommates than partners. The silence between us grew heavier, and no matter how much I tried, I felt unseen, like I was just there, filling space in his life. I was lonely. I know that's not an excuse for what I did, but it's the truth. Before I even met my husband, I had my best friend. We've been through everything together, years of laughter, heartbreak, and a closeness that felt unshakable. When I got married, that friendship never faded. If anything, my best friend became my anchor when my relationship started to unravel. Through it all, she was there, always listening when my husband wouldn't, showing up when I felt invisible. We got too close. I don't know exactly when the line blurred, but eventually, it did. It wasn't planned, and it definitely wasn't supposed to happen. But one thing led to another, and I crossed a line I can never uncross. I thought naively that maybe this would give me something real, something warm, when my marriage felt so cold. But instead of comfort, I lost everything. My best friend, the one person I thought would never leave, pulled away completely. No explanations, no closure, just distance. And my husband? He still doesn't know. We're filing for divorce. I don't know why I'm posting this. Maybe because I feel like I'm drowning in everything I can't say out loud. I know I'm the one who burned these bridges. I just didn't realize how cold it would feel, standing in the ashes. Story 8. Girlfriend cheated on me with my best friend, so I ended up doing the same with his wife, and now her youngest child might be mine. Some years ago, I met Mark, a guy I got along with immediately and quickly considered my best friend, a real bro or so I thought. We hung out a lot and it seemed like we were inseparable. At the time, he was engaged to the woman who is now his wife. He married her the year after I met them, and not long after they had a child. Fast forward about a year and a half ago, I was living with my girlfriend of 3 years. One day, she said she needed to go out to run a few errands and left her laptop on. I decided to shut it down, but wanted to make sure she hadn't left any unsaved work open. While checking, I noticed an email account still logged in on one of the tabs. In it, I saw emails with titles like "Miss you," "Can't wait to see you again," and "Do you like this?" Going through them, I confirmed she had been cheating on me. One email contained private pictures of a man. His face was familiar. I realized it was Mark. The chain also included private pictures of her. I have no idea how long this had been going on, but the emails spanned a couple of months, and who knows if she had ever deleted any of them. I had been cheated on a few times before by other girls, but this time really struck a chord with me. This was the guy I expected to have my back, not stick a knife in it. I can get over a woman cheating on me and move on after I dump her, but this time it really messed with my head. I forwarded copies of the emails to my own address and cleaned up the evidence on her laptop so I could decide what to do later, then turned it off. When she got home about 2 hours later, she noticed it was off, and I just told her that she had left it on and I didn't know when she would be back, so I turned it off. I could only guess where she had been during those hours. Probably with Mark, I thought. Before I found out, I had no reason to suspect anything. The next few days, I acted like everything was normal, but in my spare time alone, I stewed over what to do. I didn't want to let this slide, and I didn't think just telling his wife and dumping my girlfriend would be enough this time. This was easily one of the worst betrayals I had ever experienced. After several hours of thinking, I came up with a plan. I was going to try to sleep with his wife, and I intended to use the emails and pictures as leverage. His wife was attractive, although I'd never considered pursuing her before. I was just not that kind of guy, and well, she was my best friend's wife. But things had changed. I had never cheated before, and I'd never tried to get with a woman I knew was in a relationship. Now, I wanted revenge, and felt a morbid curiosity, a desire to experience the other side of being cheated on. Within the next 2 weeks, on a day off, I went to Mark's house under the pretense of returning something I had borrowed. I knew he would be at work, their child at school, and his wife would likely be home thanks to his income. At the door, I asked if Mark was home. I knew he wasn't, and was told he wasn't. I handed her what I had borrowed, explained briefly about it, and started some small talk, asking how she'd been lately. I then asked if I could use the bathroom. 20 seconds and one flush later, I was inside their house with her, continuing the conversation. She offered me a drink, so we went to the kitchen. After finishing my drink, I made the conversation a bit more personal and asked how things were going between her and Mark these days. She seemed to think everything was fine. I casually mentioned that Mark seemed a bit off lately though. To be honest, I hadn't noticed anything unusual before seeing the emails and shrugged it off. I then got my phone, opened one of the saved emails, and started reading them aloud in a slightly louder, semi-sarcastic tone while turning back toward her. She looked at me strangely, saying nothing. I read through a few of the short exchanges, then brought up the emails with the pictures. I asked if the guy in the photos looked familiar and explained that I had discovered my girlfriend was cheating on me with him, showing her the pictures my girlfriend had sent as well. She seemed floored and started sobbing, so I hugged her and held her until she calmed down a bit. I looked into her eyes and tried to kiss her. There was some resistance at first, but I persisted, and soon she began kissing back. Eventually, we ended up in their bedroom, and that was it. In the days that followed, I continued contacting her. We'd hang out, and it became a regular occurrence. Not too long after, about a month later, we started going without protection. Months later, she began showing signs of pregnancy, but I still kept seeing her. We didn't really discuss it, I just went with the flow. I continued pretending everything was normal between Mark and me, and between my girlfriend and me, even though I still wondered why he would do something like that. Things weren't really fine, and eventually I stopped putting effort into my relationship with my girlfriend, and we broke up. I guess his wife was pretending everything was normal too. His wife gave birth earlier this year. The baby seems to have more of my features than his, so it might be mine, but who really knows given how babies look? No one can say for sure. I'm still seeing her. She probably doesn't want to leave him because he makes a lot more than I do, which is probably what my ex-girlfriend saw in him. I'm okay with not being part of the child's life even if it is mine, because I can't really have a family without creating a mess here. Honestly, I'm not even sure how I feel about his wife aside from the physical thing. It's been great, but I don't think there's much beyond that. I don't really feel proud about it, but I also don't feel too bad and think he deserves it. I obviously don't see myself as the good person I used to, but getting this revenge, sweet as it is, made me feel pretty good. Am I the bad person? Am I wrong here? Or is it not that black and white? That's what I keep wondering. Story 9. I have a gay best friend, Rome. I've known him since we were literally babies. We did absolutely everything together. Sports, double dates with girls, sharing clothes, college, you name it. We've always been inseparable, even after he came out at 14. I was the first person he told, and we did some experimentation when we were kids. Everything has always kind of felt right with him. At the time, I identified as straight and liked women. I eventually met my wife in college, and we got married and had children. Rome found a husband in school as well, and they eventually adopted. We're all in our early 30s now. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and he has 2 6-year-olds. We even moved in next to each other. A few months ago, we went on a trip, just me and Rome. We got a bit drunk and started reminiscing about when we were kids, and I felt an urge to kiss him. We ended up in bed together. It was really awkward for a few days afterward until we had a serious talk and realized how much we truly felt for each other. How even as kids, our jealousy had been masked by disliking each other's partners. How inseparable we were and still are. How I might not be as straight as I thought, and how we may have been in love even back then. Everything felt right when we were together. Since then, we've been going on discreet dates and hooking up in secret. For the last few months, we've been stepping out on our marriages. Neither of us knows what to do now. We don't want to break up our families, but we can't just go back to the status quo anymore. Story 10. I don't know if this is the right place to share, but I need to put this into words. The whole situation is really messed up. I've been married to my wife, Jay, for 7 years. We've been together since 2006. For the most part, she's amazing, smart, funny, and attractive. She has 4 degrees and works as a teacher at a local elementary school. Most people think I'm crazy for even needing to vent about her. She's literally untouchable when it comes to my friends or family. That's how highly everyone thinks of her. And yet, for the life of me, I cannot keep it in my pants. I've had several one-night stands since getting married, and I mostly hate myself for it. I slept with one of my best friends back in January, and we haven't hung out since because we both feel horrible about it. My wife has 2 best friends, M and D. They live on opposite sides of a duplex. We've known M for many years, and she moved in next door to D about 8 years ago. At the time, D was already on her second marriage, from which she has 2 children, and heading toward her second divorce. She spent a few years single before eventually meeting someone she loved, and she's now on her 3rd marriage at 34, a wedding we actually attended last year. Since D and her husband R got married, we started hanging out with them a lot more. Some of it was convenient since she lived next door to M, and we were already spending time with her and her new boyfriend, but we genuinely enjoyed their company. They're about the same age as us, and share many of our interests. Slowly, I began realizing how similar D and I are, to the point that others in our group of 6 noticed. I won't go into all the details, but it's shocking how alike we are on so many levels. I'm not stupid. I can tell when a woman likes me more than friends, even if she's married. I pick up on the hints. When Dee started texting me about random things here and there, outside of our group chat, back in January or February, I knew what was going on. I kind of hoped it would die out, but again, I'm a piece of crap, and just fed into it. The ego boost was nice, and my wife was being difficult at the time. Not that she deserves a cheating husband. No one does. It wasn't exactly a fast-moving thing. But over the course of a few months, here we are spending an hour here and an hour there together. We're all pretty busy, so this is difficult. It's hard to explain why I'm so crazy about Dee. She just gets me like on a molecular level, and we've both acknowledged it. I honestly don't know if I've ever felt about Dee the way I do about Dee. Some people might just think it's because it's something new, but again, I've slept with one of my best friends, and I'm not hung up on that. So here I am, losing my mind over my wife's best friend, who's on her 3rd marriage and probably a little unhinged. I'm constantly distracted just thinking about her, and I'm 38 for crying out loud. In past situations, I could barely look at myself in the mirror, but right now, I feel literally zero guilt about this affair. I know the path I'm on, and I don't think I hate it. Story 11. I'm 32, and I cheated on my wife, who is 30, after 4 years of marriage, with my best friend and coworker, who is also 32. Things with my wife have been in a real tailspin since Christmas of 2023. Arguments, silent treatments, and a general apathy toward each other. For the first time in my life, I actually look forward to going to work, and I even take weekend shifts. We can use the extra money, but honestly, I also just don't want to be at home. We have an amazing little boy, 3 years old, and I'm really trying my best for his sake. He's so observant now that he notices everything. And while I may question my wife's abilities as a partner, she is an amazing mother. I met my friend, let's call her Katrina, while working a job around the same time I married my wife. At first, I couldn't stand her. I even tried to get her replaced because I thought she was a bad fit for our crew. Long story short, we became best friends in a completely platonic way. My wife and Katrina have never met in person, though my wife has definitely checked out her Instagram. While things were getting tense at home, Katrina was also having issues in her love life with a guy she was casually seeing. Naturally, we started talking about it, and then about deeper and deeper subjects. This is when I began to feel very faint, non-platonic feelings toward Katrina. It bothered me, but not enough to affect our work relationship. Cut to 2 days ago, Katrina and I were out of town at a work conference, staying in a hotel with separate rooms. We opted to skip the bar and just drink to unwind. We drank, smoked, did some impromptu karaoke, and talked about all of life's problems, all while my wife was at home taking care of our son. Around 2 a.m., it was time for bed. Even though we both had rooms, Katrina's room had 2 beds. I was completely blotto, so I crashed on the other bed and asked if we could hold hands across the nightstand. Katrina said, "Why not just come over here?" It was all downhill from there. No actual penetration happened because I was too drunk to get it up, but that didn't stop me from trying. We ended up back on separate beds for the night, and that was it. The next day, we found moments to debrief the whole situation. Later, we ended up back in Katrina's room and had a much deeper conversation. While we both acknowledged it was definitely wrong, neither of us felt particularly guilty about it. I retired to my own room for the night. On the way out, Katrina made a point of saying there were no feelings involved. I kind of shrugged it off because there definitely were some feelings on my end, but I don't want to do any more damage. I head home tonight, and things really aren't that weird between Katrina and me, but what the hell do I do about my wife? When I left for this work event, I had to leave early in the morning, so we didn't get a full goodbye. I just kissed my wife and son on the foreheads as they slept and took off. I didn't even have much time to talk with them, but I made sure to video chat during my son's bedtime to say goodnight. The night I shared the room with Katrina was the only night I didn't call. I have no idea what to do. I feel completely numb about the whole thing. I've reached out to my old therapist to get a professional opinion. Katrina thinks we should just keep it to ourselves. And selfishly, I agree. I don't want to hurt my wife, even though I already did, and I don't want Katrina to be labeled as a homewrecker within our industry. You can feel free to call me a piece of crap. Story 12. My husband and I have been married for 3 years and have a 2-year-old son. For probably the past year, our relationship has been good but lacking excitement. We had a rough start to our marriage, and I believe that somewhere along the way, I shut myself off from my husband. About 2 years ago, we became very close with Joe's coworker, Greg, and his wife, Angela. They became probably our closest friends. I wasn't immediately attracted to Greg, but somewhere along the way, I started to be. A couple of weeks ago, my husband stayed at home while I went out and got drunk with Greg and Angela. Greg drove me home, and that's when we cheated. The next time they came over, we kissed and flirted some more. Somehow, Joe knew. I confessed to him and confirmed his fears. Of course, a shitstorm followed. He confronted Greg and told Angela. My husband and I are trying to work things out, and as far as I know, they are too. But of course, the friendship between all of us is gone for good. I know I did a horrible thing, and I'm probably a horrible person. I don't need Reddit to tell me that. The problem is, we live in a small town. Everywhere we used to go is filled with people who know us and probably hate me. My question is, am I supposed to stay in my house forever? How and when am I supposed to face everyone again? What do I do if I run into Greg and Angela? Story 13. I am completely devastated. I moved across the country to be with my husband, knowing no one else here except him. He's in the hardest division in the Navy, so he has very little free time, but we usually make an effort to keep our relationship alive. In the beginning, we attended preventative couples therapy. Now, I go to individual therapy once every 2 weeks and see a psychiatrist monthly for medication. Lately, however, I've been taking a heavy load of summer classes because I wanted to graduate with my associate's degree before our next orders to move. I didn't want to transfer all my credits to another school. Because of this, I haven't had as much time to invest in our relationship, and since he's used to me putting in most of the effort, he hasn't been putting in much either. He still loved me, and he loved being with me. He did little things for me when he remembered. Lately, though, it felt like we hadn't been talking as much. His schedule is brutal. He leaves at 5:15 a.m. for work and comes home around 8:30 p.m., usually in bed by 11. That leaves us with maybe 2 or 3 hours together. During that time, he's often tired and hungry, and I don't want to burden him with my problems or talk about our relationship. I usually handle my feelings on my own or discuss them with my therapist. I know he's busy and exhausted, but since I've been tired and busy too, we've been avoiding each other's emotional issues, and as a result, we've felt a little distant. To get straight to the point, we went out downtown for a night with the friend in question and a couple we know to kick off the 4-day 4th of July weekend, and we ended up spending the night at the couple's apartment. My husband H passed out drunk, and I ended up being intimate with X on the couch. H woke up, walked in, went ballistic screaming and physically attacking X until he ran. H then ran outside and a neighbor who is an off-duty cop intervened. He made sure I could get home to our marital home, which H wanted to lock me out of, and another friend of H's drove us home and then took H back to his place. Since then, I've sent H exactly 2 texts, brief apologies, respecting his need for space and silence. I acknowledged the consequences of my actions and that I need to live with whatever decision he makes, but I expressed hope that in the future we could talk and that I don't want this to be the end of us. I really need to see my therapist to process what the hell was going through my mind when it happened. I love H, or at least I thought I did, but I know that cheating is a clear sign of underlying issues. I've never had a single indiscretion before, never even thought about it. I regret it so intensely. Every bone in my body hurts and my heart genuinely aches. He saw it happen, and I can't imagine he'll ever fully get over that. I don't know what to do. I've screwed up worse than I ever have in my life. I wasn't trying to do it and get away with it. I had planned to tell him because I already knew it was wrong, but I didn't want him to find out by walking in. That's horrible for him. I just don't know if he'll ever be able to look at me the same way again. I didn't post this to relationships because I've already made my bed, and I'm lying in it. I don't need "you're the scum of the earth, he deserves better, and he will leave you" thrown at me. I already know that. I just needed to get it off my chest. This happened Thursday night. I sent my few texts on Friday, and I've been completely alone in our apartment since then, with no interaction with another human being. I'm just so lonely and alone. I hate myself. I wish he would talk to me, but I promised myself that 2 texts would be the maximum until he's had his space to sort out his feelings. I want him back. I want him to at least message me. I want something. I want not to be alone while I'm going through this, but I'm miles and miles away from family or friends. This is all my fault, and that fact makes it hurt so much worse. Story 14. I am writing this at 3 a.m. the day after Thanksgiving because I honestly have no clue what to do. My wife, my best friend, the love of my life since 10th grade, cheated on me with my best friend. I am absolutely shattered. To give some backstory, my wife, I'll call her M, and I have been dating since high school. When I met her in 9th grade, she was dating T, my best friend in this story. At that time, T and I were okay friends, although not very close. After meeting her, I quickly became infatuated with M. All of freshman year, I would pray that she and T would break up so I might have a chance. Eventually, it happened. In 10th grade, I befriended her and asked her out. Our relationship became one of the best things in my life during high school. Her company sustained me through what was otherwise a pretty difficult 4 years. Since they had been just freshmen when they dated, T didn't seem to mind that I was dating his ex. In fact, he even gave me his blessing when I asked if it was okay. By senior year, we were close buddies, and there was absolutely no reason to believe that T held any animosity toward me for dating his ex from freshman year. The 3 of us all went to the same local state school for college, where I maintained both my relationship with my wife and my close friendship with T. There were times when it became blatantly clear that T was attracted to my wife, like when I caught him staring at her during parties, or when another friend told me that T had confided in him a desire to sleep with her. While that bothered me, my wife is very attractive, so I understood that other guys, even friends, would inevitably be drawn to her. As long as they didn't make a move, I didn't really care. Still, it was very clear that he was heavily attracted to her. Over the years, he would make sly comments about her looks and about how lucky I was. Fast forward over a decade to this year, my wife and I now have 2 beautiful children, a son and a daughter, and are married, while Taitu is recently divorced from his ex-wife. It was a pretty brutal divorce, and over the past few months, Tai had been in a deep depressive state. I wanted to be there for him emotionally, but I simply couldn't. The demands of my job, along with mental struggles I was dealing with myself, consumed all my time. My wife stepped in and supported him through his difficulties. They had never been that close since college, and my wife had always disliked T's womanizing tendencies. But after his divorce, with my wife there for him, I noticed a definite change in the way they related to each other. Whenever T came over to hang out with me, my wife would always sit next to him, laugh at his jokes, and even go out of her way to ask when he would be coming over next. I noticed this, and it bothered me, but I didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to come across as possessive, and I also liked that T had someone to be there for him when I couldn't. It continued to the point where my wife started going over to T's house to hang out with him while I was at work. Eventually, around September, I snapped and told my wife that I was uncomfortable with how much time they were spending together. Instead of getting mad or calling me controlling, she apologized and said she had gotten caught up in the friendship and would respect my boundaries. I asked her if she was attracted to T, and she admitted that she was. She also said that T had flirted with her, but he had never made a move and they had never done anything. This news struck my heart, and I told my wife that I didn't want her to hang out with T anymore. She agreed and apologized for her actions. For the next couple of weeks, everything seemed fine, except that I started avoiding T. At the beginning of this month, however, my wife and I got into a blow-up fight over financial issues. She has been struggling to find work since the pandemic started winding down, and despite a very flexible labor market, for some reason no one would hire her. My job alone isn't enough to support a 4-person household, so we had been under a lot of financial stress. The argument got so bad that she walked out and didn't return for several hours. I didn't ask where she had been, but she seemed almost disheveled and had an odd look on her face. Despite this, I didn't question her about her whereabouts, as I honestly didn't feel like talking to her at that point. Fast forward to Thanksgiving, where my entire family, as well as some of my friends, including T, who I hadn't spoken to in over a month, were invited. The conversation over dinner was going well until politics came up. T and I are on completely opposite sides of the political spectrum. He's a hardcore Trumper, and I'm a liberal. Please, no political arguments in the comments. Generally, we avoided discussing politics, but for some reason that day he seemed adamant about it. The conversation quickly turned heated and personal, with T yelling that my liberalism was a sign of my timidness and a failure to be a man. I asked him where that had come from, and he responded that I couldn't even satisfy my wife. I was completely shocked, as was the whole dinner table. My wife and I had never discussed our intimate life in front of anyone. The rest of dinner was awkward and silent. After everyone began leaving, I confronted my wife and T. She stared at the ground while he looked me in the eyes and admitted to sleeping with my wife on November 4th, the day of our blow-up fight. He said she came over seeking advice, they ended up hugging, and he made a move. He said she initially resisted and acknowledged it was wrong, but eventually gave in. The entire time, my wife remained silent, staring at the floor. Instead of feeling anger, I felt utter shock and couldn't get a word out. After a few minutes of silence, T just left, and I was alone with my wife. She broke down crying, saying it was the worst mistake of her life. She explained that the stress of my work, taking care of our children, and my personal issues, which made me less attentive to her, had left her feeling undesired. T's attention and flirting, she said, had made her feel good. She insisted that she had never planned to do anything with T, even though he had hinted at wanting to sleep with her when they hung out. According to her, she was only going to use him for attention while I was absent. She said it was a moment of weakness after our fight that led her to be with him. I told her to get out of my face and that I needed time alone to think. She went up to her room but came back down to try to talk and plead with me, and every time I screamed at her to leave me alone. Now sitting here writing this, I am absolutely devastated. The thought of my wife sleeping with another man tears me apart. I've never felt pain this harsh. I want to stay with her as she is the love of my life, but I don't know what to believe. Did they really do it only once? Was it truly an innocent mistake born of stress? I don't know. I want to stay with my wife more than anything. I just don't know how to move forward. I need perspective. What do you guys think? Story 15. I found out that my husband was cheating on me with his best friend's girlfriend, and she and I were friends. She had been introduced to me only because she was his best friend's girlfriend, but we quickly became close and I considered her one of my closest friends. Sadly, my husband didn't have the courage to tell me himself. I found out from his best friend. From the very first moment, my world was turned upside down. The two people I trusted most, the ones who were supposed to be there for me, were the ones who betrayed me. I told my husband that if he wanted me to stay with him, I needed to know every detail. He told me everything that very day. I must say the details were so vile they could make even the strongest person feel sick. The affair lasted about 3 months, though the emotional connection had begun even earlier. There were even a few times that I was alone with the two of them while the cheating was happening. She knew how much I loved my husband and would always tell me, "You're so lucky to have him." There were also times when all 4 of us, my husband, his best friend, her and I, hung out, completely unaware of what was going on behind the scenes. The affair was a total blindside for both me and his best friend. Eventually, his best friend drove to my house to tell me what had happened, and we cried together for hours. He works in finance and travels often, so he blamed himself for the whole thing. I also blamed myself for a long time, mostly angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. But it was comforting to have someone right there who truly understood what I was going through. My husband had emotionally cheated on me a little over a year ago, and I struggled to get over it. It affected our intimate life, and at that time we were only doing it about once a month. This was one of his biggest reasons for cheating, and it was also a major reason why I blamed myself. For context, the other couple had separated. She wanted to be with my husband and was waiting for him to divorce me. My husband's best friend wanted to stay with her, but she wasn't interested. I believe she still wants to be with my husband to this day. After learning about the affair and getting all the details, I gave myself permission to take as long as I needed to decide what I wanted to do. My husband was willing to do whatever it took for me to stay. After about 6 months of intense therapy and working through a lot, I decided I would stay with him. Our relationship is now better than it has ever been. Our intimate life is great, we communicate about everything, and we work so well together. This is exactly how I've always wanted our relationship to be. I am so attracted to him, and I love the life we are building. I do believe he is a good man who made a huge mistake, and he has made it very clear he will do anything for me to stay. But I don't know if I will ever fully trust him again. I've been talking with his now ex-best friend a lot, and we have trauma bonded over this situation. We talk 2 to 3 times a week and share how we're feeling about everything. He's been doing really well, he's traveling. He just spent 2 months in another state for fun. He's making new friends, and he's moving forward. He always tells me that her cheating on him was the best thing that ever happened to him. I wish I could see it that way. I was not the perfect wife. Honestly, I don't think anyone is. But I have a very stressful job, and there were times when I shut him out on stressful days or was impatient over small things. I always assumed he was okay with it and understood why I acted that way when I was stressed. He used to refuse to communicate with me. I have a lot of childhood trauma, as does he, and I hadn't been actively working through my deep insecurities. I've been in therapy for months because I knew I had work to do as well, and I can finally say I'm feeling so much better about the person I am. I'm showing up as my best self. Despite my flaws, I have always been loyal to him. The last few weeks, I've had this pit in my stomach. I worry that it's going to happen again. I worry that I'm being foolish for not leaving, especially since we don't have kids yet. I worry that if I do leave, I'll never find someone I'm as attracted to again. I worry that I won't find what we have right now with someone else. I worry that I'll just get cheated on again in my next relationship. I worry that if I leave him, he'll end up with her. Most of all, I worry that I'll make the wrong choice either way. I feel stuck. I need help. Morgan, I need your take on this. What should I do? Story 16. My best friend, someone I've been friends with for literally 18 years, and my husband, whom I've been married to for 7 years, we're together for 2 years, and we have 2 children. I've never been this hurt before. I feel like ending it all. The pain is overwhelming. I don't know how I'll ever get through this. I know I can't act on these thoughts because I have small kids, but I already struggle with mental health issues, and this is truly a lot to bear. We'll call my friend by her nickname, Cece, because I don't want to keep repeating my friend throughout this post. Cece and I are both 30 years old, and my husband is 34. I could tell there was an instant attraction between them. She's very pretty. People often mistake her for being in her early 20s. And me, I feel ugly. I've gained 50 pounds since I met my husband. I already have wrinkles, smile lines, and forehead lines. I just don't feel as attractive as I used to. I regret being her friend, even though she really was the only friend I had and the only good one. She helped me through so much. She gave me money when I was struggling, and she even helped me get a job. I don't know why she did this to me. I moved back to my home state, where she lives, and they started messing around. They blamed it on alcohol and the heat of the moment. The heat of the moment? Really? Even if that were true, why did they do it more than once? I went through his phone and saw that they continued even after I found out and tried to forgive him. He blamed it on me, saying it was because I wouldn't get intimate with him anymore after he cheated. It was really hard for me to be intimate with him after the cheating. I just wanted to cry, and it made me feel even worse about my body. In their messages, he kept talking about how sexy she is and sending photos back and forth, which made me feel even more inadequate and hurt. He also said that after our second child, I barely had been intimate with him. Well, a woman's drive does naturally decrease. I don't have the same drive I had when I was 21. Geez, I don't feel confident in my body anymore. I'm 5 feet tall and 157 pounds, and I'm trying my best to lose weight. On top of that, I work and have 2 small kids. I don't have time to be in the mood. We still do it. It just wasn't as much to his liking or preference. He would literally want to do it all day, every day. We would do it maybe once a month, which is not bad at all, given everything we have going on. He expected crazy banging like we were in our 20s again. It's always about being physical, like stop, I'm not attracted to that anymore. What turns me on now is when he tells me I'm beautiful. takes me out to a nice restaurant for a date night like he used to, spends money on me for something nice, makes me dinner, or takes extra shifts with the kids so I can have a break. I communicated this to him, but he says that's a different issue. The problem is that I'm not giving him access to intimacy, as if that's the only thing I'm useful for. I don't understand this obsession. This isn't fun for me. He has so much time to think about banging, but I hardly get any free time, and when I do, I just want to relax. Anyways, back to Cece. We're not friends anymore. Cece and my husband still talk, but they haven't hooked up since last month. Their affair lasted for 6 months. My husband and I are still living together. It's complicated right now. I love him and hate him at the same time. I don't want to be married to him anymore. He sleeps in the guest room with our youngest. It's all very complicated with the kids and the house. Financially, I'm in a tough spot. I've met with a lawyer secretly, and I'm just trying to protect myself financially, as long as I can. I don't want to be homeless again. I don't want to struggle. I don't want to see my kids only half the time, knowing my husband would fight for custody out of spite. As of now, I'm staying not because I want to, but because I have to. I made my bed, and now I have to lie in it, or whatever the saying is. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.